Hey y'all, Caleb here. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how you can update your Angular app to a new version. So one of the great things about Angular 2 or not Angular JS is that um, they are continuing to evolve it and add features and performance improvements. And so as you can see, at this point, Angular has 11 versions. Um, and I think Angular's been out for a little over 3 years now. So that's a good bit of updating, especially over the life of a project, right? If you're managing an application or a website. Um, and if at all possible, you're going to want to upgrade to the latest version of Angular. Um, now, during one of these versions, Angular added this functionality um, to where they help you update your application um, and try to make it as painless as possible. Uh, and I've actually used this a couple of times in some of my apps, and it's worked really well. So uh, my example, I actually have created an Angular 8.2 app, which is pretty old, um, you know, considering that it's brand new, of course. But I think this is probably a good year back or so. So if I want to upgrade from 8.2 to 11, you can go to update.angular.io, and I'll make sure to add the link in the description. And you can select the version of Angular you're running. And if I don't change the two, right, it basically, they warn us that they don't recommend uh, making this move. And I think really part of the reason is from one version to another, there might be small changes. In some cases, bracing changes, but smaller changes. But when you go from one version to a version 2 or 3 up, like this, for instance, there may be enough changes or enough um, breaking changes or conflicts that the update won't go as you expect, right? So, what they suggest you do is you go from one version up to the next version, and then you can do the process again if you're multiple versions back. Um, if we go run ng update, which is the CLI command built into Angular CLI, um, you're going to see what they suggest that you have to update, and what version it's going to go from. But they don't necessarily give you that same warning here, which is why I find the website to be so useful. Now, hey, if you're on version 10 and you're going to version 11, doing the ng update, you really shouldn't have any problems. But because we do have this big gap, we're going to use the website to make the necessary updates. So they really do provide you with a lot of detailed info on what you need to do as part of updating to 9.1. Of course, you have the before update. So in this case, they're talking about lazy loading via the routers and updating your imports just to make sure that there are no issues there. They want to make sure you're using node 10.13 or later, which we are. And then they will explicitly tell you what commands you need to run to get your project into the state that it needs to be. So the first off, we're going to run the 8 commands. And what this does is just make sure that all of our stuff is in the latest version of 8, and it's all there aren't any issues there. Everything's clean, right? And this shouldn't take long because we're on the same version. And there you go. As you can see, it said it's already up to date, so we're good to go there. So the next step is to do this update to 9. And what this is going to do is it's going to take our Angular core and Angular CLI and update them to the latest version of 9. So we're going to we're going to let this process go through. As you can see, we get that warning: the installed Angular CLI version is older than the latest stable version. Depending on the big difference between the versionings, it actually, like it says, may put in a temporary version to make sure the update goes successfully. Okay. So we have an error here, and this is actually fairly typical for older versions or older packages, because you could have some dependency conflicts or some problems with older versions of an application, and installing the package could fail, which in turn causes the migration to fail. And you'll see here, we're trying to go from 8 to 9, 8 to 9.1, so on and so forth. If you get this error, and you are several versions back, the best thing for you to do is to force it on the end, and you'll see it here. Because we can't necessarily fix the upstream dependency conflict, our best option is to force it. I mean, what this will do is it will go ahead and do it even if it believes there are errors, and get you to that next version. And then you can do an npm install to make sure you've got everything you need. You may also need to force that, and then you can do an ng-serve, get your application running. So ng-serve is what actually runs it locally for Angular, so you can view your website. And once you've got everything resolved there, then you can go from 9 to 10 and 10 to 11. And as you see, it actually completed the migration without error this time. So the next things we would do is basically just follow these steps. Check out the latest version of TypeScript. We can review this guide to update to version 9. And then we can also follow the after update steps that they suggest to make sure that everything is where it needs to be. And then, like I said, once we're there, you go from 9.1 to 10.2, right? And you'll see here, right, the instructions are different. The before update has some of the after update from 8, and the during update has much less info in it, because, like I said, from one update to another, there may be larger changes, or there may just be a couple of changes that impact us. So I found this tool to be really helpful in making those moves. And again, I'll add this link in the description. And I think that about covers updating your version of Angular. If you have any comments, please leave them below. And I hope y'all have a great day. Bye, y'all.